Hello there, and welcome back, where we take a look at some of the more off-meta options available to us. And as is becoming the case quite frequently when I'm looking at a leader and base combination, guess what happens? It goes and wins a PQ when I'm about to put the video out. So I did have a look at that list out of curiosity, and there are quite a few differences actually, and I think that is what Poe gives you, because he is not married to fighters in the way that Luke is. You can be quite flexible in what vehicles you are including. Now, we do have a lot of fighters still, and there probably are one or two changes that I would make, but let's get into it. So I've titled it Aggro on the Fly, and it's in the thumbnail as well. And that is because there isn't necessarily a through line that we're particularly looking for or a game plan off the bat. It is we will look at the opportunities that are presented to us and we will hit them hard from there. So, Poe as a leader, what does he do? When he is not deployed, he has an action that costs one resource to put him onto a vehicle as a pilot, and they have to not have a pilot on them. So if you've already put R2-D2 on it, he cannot deploy. And the reason that is because of this word attach. It's not them using a thesaurus, it is actually a different mechanic. I believe R2-D2 as a pilot says you can play or deploy another pilot onto that ship, or vehicle, I should say. So there is a small distinction. And when he is attached to a vehicle, he gives it +2/+1, so relatively aggressive stats. The best thing about it is, of course, that we are able to give ourselves an upgrade to vehicles without costing a card from our hand. So it is incredibly flexible. When he is attached to a vehicle as well, you can pay another one to then move him to another vehicle without a pilot on it. So it's kind of like a less action efficient armed to the teeth in a way if you are able to pull it off. So how do we use or utilize this action? What are we looking to do with it? Are we looking to use it as often as possible? Not necessarily. As I say, we are playing on the fly. We are seeing what opportunities are presented to us, and we go from there. What I would say is that the opening that we're looking for is one of our many 2-cost fighters as turn 1, especially if we've got initiative. This is the ideal scenario. We then claim, we then play a second vehicle potentially. If we're against a blue Vinley deck, then we'll play a second vehicle. If they power the dark side, then we just get rid of that. It will be 2 costs that we played on the second phase, so we've got two costs out there. We get rid of the one we just played. We then put Poe onto the turn 1 play, and we're hitting for 5 most likely. So that's the opening we're looking for in pretty much every single game. But with Power of the Dark Side looming, you have to play your second vehicle first before putting Poe onto that ship, if that makes sense. So yeah, Poe is an incredibly flexible leader because of this one resource that we can use, and obviously the other one resource. So the way the deck is built, it gives us a lot of different options at pretty much all points throughout the game. What is going to be the best way of potentially dealing with some of their things going on, which is unlikely because we are the one presenting threats most of the time. And yeah, we go from there. What I have found as well is that when you do put Poe on a ship and gives it 5 power quite frequently, the 2 costs, your opponent feels they have to deal with it straight away. So this deck, the way I kind of play it is present them questions, and if they can answer it, fine, no worries. If they're using the likes of Fell the Dragon on a 2-cost unit, they're going to run out of answers by the time we get to our late game with Radus, and we can just basically slap them silly. So it's very, very tricky to deal with. On to his actual deploy, he comes down on 5 resources as a 4/6, so pretty basic stats. This is also a thing that can make him tricky to deal with, because if your opponent defeats the unit or the upgrade on the 5 resource turn, we don't really care, because then we can just deploy him as a leader on rate and hit their base for 4. And then sure, they might deal with him, but that doesn't deactivate his action, and we can just keep getting value that way as well. So he's very tricky to deal with. And I think opponents haven't entirely figured out what to do with him, because I would say fairly reasonably that you can't just leave him lying around on ships all the time, but you also can't spend your whole game just dealing with that, because otherwise you're just not going to be pushing in damage onto our base themselves. So yeah, anyway, I've gone with Data Vault. It's pretty much a binary choice between Data Vault or ECL these days if you're not running a force base. I don't have the legendary Poe unit, so that pushes me more towards being motivated to use Data Vault, and this just means we can include more things that are perhaps a bit more situational without really harming what our deck can do, along with having a bit more of a late game than we perhaps would otherwise. So, on to the space units, because this is pretty much, no, it is. It is an exclusively space-focused deck, apart from some of our pilots, of course. So, the most important cards in the deck for our opening are, of course, the first 5 2-drop options. So, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking for any combination excuse me, of 2 of these, so that we can play one turn 1, take initiative, play the second one, put Poe on a ship, and just start smacking from there. So black 1, when it's upgraded, it gets +1/+0, so it will be a 5 powered attacker with Poe, or any, well not any, with Poe on the ship. And on attack, if you control Poe Dameron as a unit upgrade or leader, his leader is already activated, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. So we will be able to chip away at certain units and get a little bit of bonus value there. We do, of course, have red 5 as well, so that will be able to come down and potentially finish some things off. That black 1 has got a bit of ping damage on, so that's quite useful. 2 A-Wings, just, not much to say there. Red Squadron Y-Wing, this can also synergize pretty well with red 5 and black 1. They're more likely to do more damage to their units with the 3 indirect, so red 5 will be easily able to finish them off. Resistance X-Wing, with Poe on, this becomes a 5/4. I am beginning to think that actually Anakin's Interceptor would be a better choice, because it does start off with 3 health, so it doesn't die to the likes of a Daring Raid or just 2 small pings. Of course, with Poe on Anakin's Interceptor, it's a 4/5 versus this X-Wing being a 5/4. But for 1 point damage of difference, I don't think it's really worth the smaller health. The other advantage this does have, though, is that it is resistance. We've got BB-8, so BB-8 would be able to ready this unit up. But yeah, I'm beginning to think Anakin's Interceptor would be the best choice, because later on in the game, of course, it becomes a 4/3. So yeah, I think this would get ditched or swapped out. Blue leader, pretty much in all green hero decks, not much more to say, just very flexible, can go down to the ground if we want to take something out, and of course if it's on the ground, it's still a vehicle, we can put Poe on that as well, so unlikely, but we could. Disabling Fangfighter, only gone for 2 of those because it's situational. This, I think you could argue this could become a 3 of, because if they slap a lightsaber, especially a General's Blade, on the early unit, we would lose to that most probably. So Fangfighter could very well become a 3 of. Red 5, I've kind of already gone over that, but just a very good versatile unit. If you've damaged one of their Sentinels in space, then the on attack from this might well kill it. If not, you're doing 5 damage to a Sentinel, which isn't, if it's already damaged, is surely going to kill it as well. On to the rest of our space units, minus the wildcard, which we'll get onto. Red Leader, so this hasn't really popped up in many decks whatsoever. It is a 4 cost for 3/4 stats, which is poor. However, it costs 1 less to play for each friendly pilot unit and upgrade, so if we already have Poe out, this is going to cost 3. If we've got 2 pilots out, then this will cost 2, so it gets exponentially better, or cheaper. And when a pilot upgrade attaches to this unit, creates an X-Wing token. So this creates quite an interesting potential with Poe, because what you can do is attach him to Red Leader from the leader zone, create an X-Wing token, pay another 1 to move Poe off of the ship onto something that's ready to attack, perhaps, and then the next phase you can reattach Poe onto Red Leader using his pilot action, creating another X-Wing token. So it can just scale and scale and scale, and that is the reason that I've put it in and had fairly decent results with it. Sabine's Masterpiece, so only 2 of, because actually I only own 2 somehow, so that's fun. The main one we'd be looking for of the on attack is the green, giving an experience token so it can just scale and scale. I think on reflection, this should be replaced with the Jump to Lightspeed Millennium Falcon, mainly for that 1 extra health it has, because this dies to blue leader, the Falcon doesn't out of the gate. So And if you put Poe on the Falcon, it is hitting for 6. Yes, 6. And then you can put Chewie on after it as well. So, yeah, I think it would be swapped out for the Falcon, and probably 3 of the Falcon, so it'd find room elsewhere for the extra one. Resistance Blue Squadron, so unassuming but very effective. 4 cost 3/4, so underpower stats, but when played you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of friendly space units. So if we've, for example, got 3 space units out, including this one at the time it's deployed, then we can do 3 damage to a Sentinel in space, like a Supremacy TIE, takes it out, kaboom. The other utility, of course, is if we've had Poe on the ground at any point and perhaps there's a unit with restore. I mean, the daughter, for example, is the primary thing that we'd really want to get rid of. Then we can run Poe into the daughter. She only has 2 health left. You're probably going to have at least 2 space units out at any one time, so then Resistance Blue Squadron will finish her off. Kit Fisto's Ether Sprite, only gone for 1 of. This might be the one that gets ditched for the Falcon. But a 4/5, so decent enough stats with Saboteur, which is nice. And then when played, you may defeat any number of upgrades on a unit. So if we've got a Voltron situation going on, then we can just wipe that out, and that is the main reason it's there. Rebellious Hammerhead. So a 5/7, 6 cost, with when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards in your hand. So similar to the Blue Squadron, this can just help to finish off something that is perhaps a bit problematic, or just get a bit of incidental value along the way to help us stay ahead of a damage race. Killing something that's hitting for 2 or 3 each turn can be significant when you're trying to stay ahead of a aggressive deck. This is potentially, I need to look at it, but the Guerrilla Attack Pod from set 1 is also a 6 cost, but when there's 15 damage on either player's base, it comes in ready. I'm thinking for the burst damage potential, the Guerrilla Attack Pod might be better suited than the Hammerhead, but we shall see. And then we come to the most problematic card in the deck, and I would say one of the most problematic cards in the game for an opponent to deal with, which sees no play. It's a 7 cost, 8/6, so highly aggressive. When you control another resistance card, and again, Poe is our leader, so this is always going to be active. This unit gains Sentinel, so that's a nice byproduct, but the effect we really, really care about, and your opponent is going to have a headache on what to do with, is when this is defeated, deal damage equal to this unit's power to an enemy unit. So, sure, they can take this out. They're going to lose a unit of their own. Highly likely anyway, unless it's like a Devastator, a green Devastator that is. So, this is our end game finisher, pretty much, and even if it doesn't hit base once, they have probably lost something very significant on their end as well. They'll have used at least 1 card to get rid of it, and they lose a unit as well. And as we know in this game, 2-for-1s are extremely valuable. So it serves the dual purpose of, here's something absolutely massive that I can hit you with, what are you going to do? There have been some times where I haven't actually managed to put a whole lot of damage onto their base, but you slap this down, put Chewie on it, or Poe, and you can kind of kill them in 2 attacks if there's not a whole lot they can do about it. So, yeah, it's a very good closer and poses a significant problem in 2 senses. Onto the wild card. So this is a card that I like to highlight that doesn't particularly see a whole lot of play in general or in the context of a leader we're looking at. Well, the Senatorial Corvette, I think, probably fits into both categories. So it's a 5 cost, 5/4. It's a card I've always liked as well, but I've never really found a home for it. But anyway, a 5 cost, 5/4 with Saboteur, so that's quite significant. However, when defeated, each opponent discards a card from their hand. So uber value in Twin Suns, but we're not looking at it for that purpose. So again, similar to what I was saying with the Radus, this is a threat they're going to have to deal with. Especially if you put Poe on it, then it's a 7/5 Saboteur. They will have to use 1 card from their hand at a minimum. If they've got an Eager Escort Fighter, that will take it out, but they'll lose another card from their hand. And as I just mentioned, 2-for-1s are extremely valuable. So, and again, the theme of this deck is we present them threats and questions that they feel they have to answer, and in most cases they do have to answer, they are correct, but we are whittling them down in answers that they are going to have by the time we get the likes of the Hammerhead, Radus, etc. And then we can just hit them even harder, unimpeded. Onto the ground and pilots, and as you can see, we do not have many, but we've got BB-8. It's a one-cost pilot, which is quite crucial. And when played as an upgrade, you may pay 2 if you do ready a resistance unit. So it's the second part that we really care about. So for 3 resources, you'll be able to get another attack in with a unit that you've already attacked with, so long as it is resistance. So if we remind ourselves of the resistance units we have, we've got Black 1, the X-Wing, where is it? Blue Squadron, and the Radus, and of course Poe Dameron himself if he is down on the ground. So there's not a ton, and there's not a ton of usable resistance units in the game as a whole, and that's why I've only gone for 2 of, because it is a bit of a situational combo piece. We're not building a whole deck around it. If we're able to pull it off, then great. Hitting for 8 in one phase with Poe as a leader is very useful. Cassian Andor, so he's always been a classic surprise burst damage pusher. So when you smuggle him out at 5 resources, he comes in ready, so you just smack him for 3. Perhaps get them over a certain threshold where they then have to claim, or they believed they were safe, but actually they no longer are, so they'll need a specific answer. And it diversifies our threats a bit when not all going in on space. Chewbacca, one of the best units in the game, let's be honest, let alone within Green Hero, and a card that has perhaps been forgotten about in terms of when other people are deck building, in terms of if you put Chewie on a space unit turn 2, that could be a game-winning move in and of itself if he just can't be answered immediately. So pilot him for 3. The attached unit gains, this unit can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities, so can still be damaged by card effects, can still be captured, which in space there's not a whole lot of ways to capture without using cards that don't really see any use, so probably don't need to worry about that. But yeah, if you manage to get Chewie on a ship and Poe on a ship, you're at the same time, they're in big trouble. Onto our events, and we've got 2 heroic sacrifice, so we generally want to keep our units around, so this is mainly just to push some final damage in, or if we are in a situation where the ground arena is relatively safe, there's no sentinels, and we want to get Poe, if we're on 5 resources and Poe is stuck on a ship, then we can attack with him, maybe move him onto another ship, and then use heroic sacrifice on that. He's then gone. We can then deploy him on the ground to get another full damage in, and all of a sudden they are taking a massive wad more than they anticipated. The other use could be with the Radus. It makes it a 10 powered unit. That's going to kill a Devastator. Of course, the 10 damage would kill the Devastator anyway, but the when defeated will do 10 damage to maybe playing against Emperor Palpatine. That'll wipe him out as well. So, yeah. Niche use, but it's possible. They hate that ship. Only gone for 2 of them because there is only one target that we are looking to cheat out, and that is the Radus. I will shut up about the Radus eventually, but it is so ridiculously good. The opponent gets 2 TIE Fighter tokens, which is fairly insignificant, but also that's the reason why we only want to cheat out the Radus, because a lot of our units are relatively low health. So if you cheat it out like the Senatorial Corvette, them having 2 TIE Fighter tokens is quite bad really for us. So yeah, play this on 5 resources, you get the Radus out at 5 resources. So yeah, highly significant. Stay on target, it is our damage boost for attacking with a vehicle, you get +2, and if it's dealing damage to a base, you draw a card. The interesting thing with the Y-Wing is if they assign any of indirect damage to their base, then you get to draw 2 cards, because it's 2 different sources of damage from the same unit. Open fire, just some simple removal. If they put a sentinel in space, etc., then we can just get rid of that without compromising our own unit health. And then new wing reinforcements. So if we want to present them a ridiculous number of threats, then we can do this. Or if we need to go digging for the Radus, then this will get us, so my maths work, a 1/6 of our way through the deck. So what I would say is do a bit of vibes-based maths. Look at your resources, look at your discard, look at your hand. Have I seen a radish yet? If the answer is no, then you're quite likely to find it when you play U-Wing Reinforcement. The only upgrade we run is Arm to the Teeth. So this has always been a very powerful card. It seems to have found a home in Legends of the Force for whatever reason. I've always been quite big on it. But the attached unit gains on attack give friendly unit +2 for this phase. So +2 for the unit that you've got it on, and then +2 for another. So it's worth 4 damage if you are reliably able to pull it off. And it can be smuggled for 4 resources. So a lot of the time this will be smuggled out. I have quite liked putting it on Poe when he's a leader deployed on the ground, and then boost stuff in space. He has 6 health, so he's the most... No, he's not quite the most sturdy unit that we have. So it takes a bit of work to get him taken out. In terms of other options, I've already mentioned Anakin's Interceptor. I think Jedi Starfighter would be for the sideboard. If we're against Vader, then this can single-handedly wreck that. I've already mentioned a Falcon. Adept Arc 170. This would be to really hammer home our Data Vault health advantage, because we'll get Restore 2 as well. Adelphi Patrol Wing, I can definitely see a case for. Depending on how the game goes, however, if you have been bouncing Poe around, you're unlikely to have the initiative when this comes out, potentially. So you won't get the +2 bonus. You will get the action efficiency from it, and it is a good stat line. But yeah, I haven't included it in mine. MC Assault Frigate is just a good beat stick. It hits for 6. It does have the worst stat line for removal, because Takedown Feral Dragon will get rid of it. However, it'll be interesting if we don't get similar Takedown or Feral Dragon type cards when rotation hits, and then this card will become much more viable. It's still very good, but yeah, it will become extremely good. Grid Attack Pod, I've already mentioned. It does have Grit as well, which can be nice. You can put Poe on it, so it'll be 6/7, which then upgrades the Grit potential on it slightly. But yeah, this can be a potential finisher. And then Reinforcement Walker. So perhaps we are having a longer game, then again, this will help with the Data Vault health advantage already to really hammer that home. And yeah, we can start drawing cards and swarming in space with our myriad of 2 and 3 cost, etc. options. And then the Poe Dameron pilot was a consideration. I decided against it. I think I went for BB-8 basically in that slot instead. What I would, if I did include it, what I would be looking to do mainly is have Red Leader out already, then play Poe on the ground, and then shove him onto Red Leader. You've then got a 5/7 statted Red Leader, and you've created 2 X-Wing tokens. So that would be the play I'd primarily be making. Confiscate, so I already mentioned a General's Blade on an early cost unit can just basically win the game for them single-handedly, probably. So this would help mitigate against that. We could go all in on Fang Fighters, all in on Confiscate to really make it more likely that possibility isn't going to happen. Shoot down, a more aggressive form of removal. If they have put a Sentinel and we can finish it off in space, then we'll get a bonus 2 damage onto their base as well. Timely Reinforcements is an interesting one. This deck isn't necessarily looking to kill opponents as quickly as possible. I'd say it's a case of present threats, whittle down their answers, and then if they don't have any answers or they've run out, we're running free basically. So for every 2 resources the opponent controls, get an X-Wing token, give it Sentinel. The Sentinel isn't really relevant, to be honest, in the context of this deck anyway. But yeah, this can be like a mini U-Wing reinforcement. If they've ramped ahead, like if you're playing an Emperor Palpatine, then this is likely to get you 4 X-Wings. So yeah, 8 power on the board essentially. And I've just randomly remembered a bit of advice. If you are playing against a blue villainy deck, you have to be extremely careful if you are going to deploy Radus. I would probably just recommend not to doing it whatsoever. if they have no glory, only results, that might win them the game. If you've already seen 3 no glories by the time you're got a Radus, then absolutely fine, go ahead and play it. But if they take control of it and they get the when defeated effect, they will wipe out they've wiped out the Radus from you, they will wipe out another one of your units, and that could actually, as I say, just win them and get the game outright. So just something to bear in mind. I should have said it at the time, but I just randomly remembered, probably because I was talking about Emperor Palpatine. But I think that is everything. Yeah. So as I say, that is the deck. We hit them hard. This can go extremely fast if they don't have the right answers. If they do have the so-called right answers, that's fine. We've got plenty more threats along the way. As I say, if they're playing Fel the Dragon to take out Black 1, that's fine. That's one less Fel the Dragon they have for the Corvette, the Hammerhead, the Radus, etc. Plus other units that we can make 5 power or more with Poe later on. So it's a very tricky deck to deal with from what I've seen. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. He's possibly the most flexible leader I've come across because there's so many different ways that you can utilize all of your resources. And as I say, we just see what happens in front of us, and then we take the opportunities that we have, and very hard to deal with. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I don't know what's on the docket next. Probably something a bit weird. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and take care.